Reliance Jio has gone back on its promise to keep voice calls free on its network. The telecom operator will now charge users 6 paise per minute for voice calls made to rival phone networks. With this move, Jio is trying to recover interconnection usage charges. Although the customers will need to incur the cost, Jio is offering extra data as consolidation. To understand what this means for a sector, is this a sign of Jio blinking? Is this a sign to end of pricing pressures? Somebody who knows this sector inside out, the former CEO of Bharti Airtel, Sanjay Kapoor, joins us right now on phone line. In a bit, we'll also get Rajiv Sharma of SBICAP Securities. But Sanjay, it's so good of you to take time out and speak to us. What do you make of this move, Sanjay? The street believes this might be a signal to the end of the pricing war regime. What is your thought?
Yeah, Neeraj, morning. My thoughts are a little different from probably what the analysts are thinking. First and foremost, I agree that, $1.50 ARPU market to make lifetime promises is always unsustainable and will have many caveats that you might have to counter. The second but more important thing is that this particular change in stance signals to the market that no matter whether you are an incumbent or whether you are a challenger, there is a cash crunch in the industry and the revenues are not generating enough EBITDA and cash flows for the industry to sustain itself. And therefore, as long as on-net discounting is concerned, it's fine because there's no cash out. But on off-net discounting, where I have to pay cash to somebody else, that probably to be absorbed by any company seems to be a challenge. And therefore, Jio has come out and said, I need to recover this money from the customers. So I think that's one step. The second one, to say, is this a signal towards end of price wars? I think disruption and price war in this industry will continue as a pressure point till Jio, according to me, attains at least a 50% revenue market share. I think they've spelled it in some form or the other in the past, and my interpretation is, why would they relent after putting in tens of billions of dollars into this industry and sit back and say, I'm happy with a one-third scenario? I don't see that stacking up. But more importantly, from a consumer perspective, after the advent of Jio, the entire pricing structure in the market was simplified, where one package and you could consume as much of voice, as much of data that's granted to you. But now you've brought in back the complexity that existed earlier, where you need a top-up, and with the top-up, and I know it's only one element right now, but this one element could become two elements tomorrow. It's basically digressing from that simplicity to now requiring a recharge voucher to top up and then get it offset through a free data on net that you will get. So that complexity comes back. I don't see it as a signal to say it's all truths, one-third. I think you will see the pressure points and, disruption in the market. But I think for whatever reasons, it's a good signal to say we cannot afford to absorb cash outflows and we will recover it from the customer.
Right. So, Sanjay, what does this leave on the table for the other two players? What do you see happening first, rather? Do you see Bharti and Vodafone, jumping the bandwagon along with Jio and saying we too will start passing on the IUC to customers? Or do you feel that the low-cost customer base that Jio has, that is cost-sensitive, will say that, okay, I don't want to pay the 6 paise and move to another operator?
So there are two nuances to this. First, we've all noticed that since the time a pack got announced in the market where you could consume as much of voice, the voice minutes have shot through the roof in our country. They've gone beyond 600 minutes per customer per month, from about 320, 380. And that, with the charge that has come in, should dissipate a bit. They should come down a little bit. And therefore, that will be a cost advantage to everybody if that happens. Now, coming down to Voda Idea and Airtel, very clearly, I think the traffic imbalance is there, and they're the guys who are net intakers of calls from Jio, and therefore they have a choice. whether to relent to what Jio is saying and see it as a recovery opportunity of 6% and cover that cost, or they're saying let it be a differential in the market because we are not net payers to Jio, we are net receivers. So I think it depends strategically. Given that they are very cash pressed themselves, they might just relent and say let's recover. Or if they think no, it's a short-term pain, let's bear with it, and we still will receive some money. I think that could become a differential for them going forward.
So you don't see the movement of the customer base? You don't see the shifting of the customer base?
Guys at the low end, who consume a lot of voice with this 6 paise, especially on the feature phone side, because, although they consume data, you see the advantage with Jio that you have to keep in mind is all customers, whether feature phone or smartphone, are all data customers. They are all customers who have access to 4G. So their reason for buying a Jio may not be 100% voice. So it will have an element of data, which could be skewed from maybe 5% weightage to somebody to 100% weightage to somebody else. So I guess shifting of customers may not be that easy, especially because they're saying we will compensate. But would I say it will be zero? Maybe not. Maybe it will be some percentage points.
Okay. Sanjay, I know you were short on time, but appreciate you taking the time out and joining us for this quick interaction. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Neeraj.
Well, that's Sanjay Kapoor, former CEO of Airtel India. Rajiv Sharma of SBICAP Securities, who tracks this very closely, also with us on the show. Rajiv, thanks much for taking the time out this morning. What's your assessment, Rajiv, of what would this mean for all the 3 businesses? Let's start off with Jio, and then we move on to the others. Let's start off with Jio first.
So very clearly, they are passing on the cost to the consumers. So, when you do that, it's EBITDA positive. And when others start doing that and it becomes an industry norm, then industry could add actually incremental some $2 to $2.3 billion of incremental revenues, and a $2 billion EBITDA, comes to the industry. So the way to, perceive this is voice finally gets a context to get charged. Since Jio's launch, voice has been perceived as free and something which is very complementary with all the tariff plans, except the 2G plans which are there in the market. With this, voice becomes kind of chargeable, and consumers understand that, okay, voice is no more free. And there's a big change in stand or positioning also by Jio, that from free, they are, trying to recover something from consumers, be it termination charges, but it is a change in stand.
Sanjay Kapoor doesn't believe that this is a signal of the end of the pricing war regime. If at all, it's a tactical move, one-off move, and not necessarily Reliance Jio blinking in that sense. I've read a couple of notes of some of your peers who believe otherwise. What is your thought? And therefore, what does it do to Jio's EBITDA over the medium term?
So, taking your last question first, it improves your EBITDA by 20 odd percent at least on the telecom side. But the way we see, and not talking really as to how the experts are saying this, but the way we see this is that incumbents were keeping their tariff hikes till the time Jio had really launched services. They knew tariff cuts are coming, but they themselves never, even though expected it, but on their own they never cut tariffs on 3G or 2G or voice till the time there was absolute clarity, and they've been very gradual about their tariff cuts. Given that this allows them to improve their profitability, they will adapt to this in some form or the other. Is the tariff thing sorted? I think yes, I would agree that it's not, you do not have an absolute clear visibility that today we can say that the sector has re-rated, market structure is balanced out, and there is now only, tariffs have improved now by 10% and they will keep improving gradually. That's difficult to say. If IUC was to get to zero, then Jio may have to keep its promise and it rolls back and we go back to the similar regime. So the longer this IUC thing plays out, gradually we get to a scenario where voice is getting charged and then incremental steps may be taken. So as of now, it's kind of fluid, but it is still positive because we've been talking about this for long. Finally, there's something which is happening here.
So what happens to the low ARPU regime going forward? Do you see any material change out there? And just a word on how does investment from a stock standpoint get aligned within the telecom space? I mean, obviously, Reliance is the play on Jio, but for Bharti and Vodafone now down to being a penny stock, the only option probably left aside from Reliance is Bharti Airtel. So do you see more interest from an investor perspective, stock market investor perspective for Bharti Airtel?
So yes, taking your last question first, that yes, there is lot of interest as to is this view on sector changing? Are the tariffs going to now only move upwards, and are we going to see coming out of low ARPUs, as you rightly pointed out? The only deterrent to that is that just few days back, Jio has cut tariffs on its pricing on its low-end feature phone, which tells you that one hand it wants to grab subscriber market share, but the other hand it has attempting to recover one of its cost, given that it feels that there is the regulator might change its stance on IUC. So both the variables are playing on the same time. So I believe till the time the market structure balances out, a clear view on tariffs will be difficult. But we will see some near-term positive. This may not be sustainable. That would be my conclusion.
Got that. Rajiv, we leave it at that. Thank you so very much for joining us in this conversation. And while we were having that conversation, the stock prices of both Bharti Airtel and Vodafone Idea have come off their day's highs. Bharti Airtel is now up about 4% and Vodafone Idea has actually seen an even bigger drop. It was up 15% at one point. Now the stock's up just about 4%. So you've seen that incremental gain coming off.
And the Bank Nifty is trading nearly at the lowest point of the day. So great gains yesterday, cooling off a bit today. We were scratching our heads as to why this could have happened. Well, let's wait and watch. But for now, call it a day on this leg of Indian Open from Devina and me and the team that put this show together. Thanks so much for watching. The FNO show takes forward the action on the other side.